All right, good afternoon, everybody. I am Saad Al-Aziz, owner and head instructor of Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas. And this week's question of the week is my thoughts about cross training with other Brazilian Jiu Jitsu schools in town or just other associations across the country. And what do I think about students training with other schools? And so, to make a long story short, for those of you that can't watch the whole video, because my wife says I talk too much sometimes, I can't imagine, short answer is absolutely yes. I encourage people to cross-train with other schools and associations. As long as they welcome you to come in and train with them, I would 100% encourage you to do so. So, if you don't have a lot of time to watch the video, there's your answer. So, why do I say this? Why do I think it's important? Now I'll tell you that answer. So, the reason I think it's important is, and the reason I think it's good, is like there's a lot, jiu-jitsu constantly evolves. People train, they come up with attacks and escapes, and then other folks will come up with defenses and ways to attack, different defenses, and it's just constantly evolving, new techniques, new ideas, and you get amazing brainstorming opportunities just to see how somebody else is attacking. Like I had a friend come to visit over the weekend, and I was rolling with him, and he was doing the worm guard against me, which was really cool because at the school he's at in Dallas, they do a lot of worm guard. And so he was doing the worm guard because at my school, really very rarely does somebody do the worm guard. So I was really fascinated with how he was attacking me and how I could counter it. And so that was a great training experience for me because I was being attacked in a way that I hadn't been attacked before. Or, at least very rarely has somebody used these techniques against me. So that is one of the advantages with cross training is sometimes you might come from a more traditional school where they just do closed guard, open guard, and then you train with somebody that now is, at a different school maybe does a lot more berimbolo, or, they a lot more spider guard or de la hiva or deep half, and maybe you don't do that as much at your school. And then when you go to their school, they also benefit because maybe the people at their school don't do the closed guard as much. And so there's a lot of benefits both ways. And the way I look at jiu-jitsu is maybe different than many others do, but the way I look at jiu-jitsu, I look at it as a world of people who are all kindred spirits who are just doing something that they love. Like, I don't train daily in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I'm trying to be some famous world champion, or have hopes of being like Elio Gracie and Carlos Gracie behind me with my picture on the wall at somebody's academy. I do it because I love doing it. I don't do it because I'm interested in some particular championship, although I compete a lot. I'm 52 years old. I realize that I'm not, going to be the next UFC champion, and I don't train to be such a thing. Jiu-jitsu to me is something that I do that's because I love doing it. I enjoy the mental chess match between me and my training partner, and really that's what jiu-jitsu is to me. It's like if I'm playing chess on a board, that's mentally stimulating. But when you're playing chess on these mats with your body and your mind and your training partner's body and their mind, and you're trying to figure out how can I attack this person to get the submission, to get the better position, and how can I defend myself? And there's a lot involved in it, and that's what I love about jiu-jitsu. And the other thing is the friends I make through jiu-jitsu. We're all kindred spirits. We're all very similar personalities. We're doing an art that we love, and I don't think we need to be all clannish. I only train with the people on my team. And I've over the years, in my jiu-jitsu journey, which is significantly different than maybe other people's jiu-jitsu journeys. one of my best friends, he's been with the same instructor from white belt to black belt. And that's awesome. Where for me, you know, almost every belt I received from a different person. And not because, I didn't want to be loyal to a school. It was just the U.S. military. I retired from the Navy after 33 years, which is how we came up with Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu, because Semper Fortis is the Navy's Latin motto that means always strong. So every 3 years, I would go to a new duty station. And, so I would have to find a new school to train at, a new instructor, oftentimes, a new team, because there was very rarely the same jiu-jitsu association that I had been associated with at the previous duty station that was going to exist at the new duty station. So either I would have to give up jiu-jitsu, or I'd have to start training with a new team. And so clearly I chose to train with a new team each duty station. And I made a lot of friends, and lifelong friends, from all this training with other kindred spirits in jiu-jitsu. So now when I go to the World Jiu-Jitsu Championships, or I go to the Pan American Championships, it's almost like a family reunion, because I'm seeing friends that I've trained with, years ago that I hadn't seen in a while, and we're seeing each other, we're hugging each other, we're like, hey brother, how you been? Life is good. How the kids? How's the knee doing? It's a good time, and I love that about jiu-jitsu, and that's what I want my students to get out of jiu-jitsu. I want them to love jiu-jitsu, and I want them to get the full experience and meet all the wonderful people and see all the amazing techniques and strategies that exist out there. And they don't have to just train with me, So if another school in town is opening their doors, they're like, hey, you're welcome to come train with us. Man, go train with them, Of course, I want you to train mostly with me, but if you have an opportunity, and there's some amazing jiu-jitsu people in town. And I've taken advantage of training with other people in town. Like, I will frequently train with GFT here in town. Bruno Alves has a school. He's an amazing jiu-jitsu instructor. People could technically look at us as competitors because we both have jiu-jitsu schools, but I look at us as, kindred spirits. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go train with my friend, and whether it's I want to go train with Bruno or Delua or with Daniel Pinero or Rodrigo Pinero, or I've gone to train with Maha Sinki, because they have amazing jiu-jitsu, and they're really great people, and when they open their doors and say, Saad, come on, you're welcome to come train, I'm gonna come train. Or I've got great friends at the Helson Gracie School in town. When Helson comes through, I want to come see Helson. Helson is a legend, and I love those guys over there. So, I look forward to training with them. So I don't look at it as like, oh, they're my rivals. I look at it as they're just my kindred spirits. So I fully encourage our folks to go ahead and, train with others, other schools that are welcoming you. And, I know that not everybody in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community looks at it the way I do. Matter of fact, the norm for years has been only train with your team, only train with your school. And there's a lot of people that are really adamant about it. They're like, oh, you should only train with us. Matter of fact, there's a famous jiu-jitsu guy. I see his videos every once in a while where he talks about not cross-training, only training with your school. And then the guy, he asked the question, he's like, well, if a student trains with me and he also trains with another school in town, how do I know, whose team he's representing when he comes to a tournament? And my answer to that question is very simple. If I show up to an IBJJF tournament or a NAGA tournament, and that student is wearing a Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu patch, I'm like, hey, he's representing my team. I should be coaching this dude. And if he's wearing a Gracie Baja patch or, a GFT patch, be like, okay, well, he's representing another team. But every year when I go to the World Championships, or every year I go to the Pan American Championships, I don't just go and compete. If I see a student from San Antonio who's competing and their coach isn't there, I'll ask him. I'm like, hey, would you like me to coach you? not because I want that student to be my student now. It's like I know they're competing at a high level for, various financial reasons, or schedule reasons. Their coach couldn't be there. And sometimes it makes a big difference just to have a friend in your corner coaching you. And I've gone and competed at the Master Worlds and the Pan Ams and other jiu-jitsu tournaments where friends of mine who are in different jiu-jitsu teams, sometimes different schools here in San Antonio, will coach me because they're my friend. Like I think last couple years ago I was at the Master Worlds, and I'm competing against the guy, and I heard my friend Gabe Renaga from Ohana Jiu-Jitsu yelling advice to me, and he was giving good advice. I'm like, man, like it's nice to hear a friendly voice, because the other guy's coach was giving him advice, so it was nice to have a friend give me some advice. So it's like it's good. Like, make friends, train with whoever you want to train with. Like, enjoy this journey. Don't make it like, like when you sign up for a jiu-jitsu school, you're not signing up for like some gang. It's like us against the world. It's like, no, you can train with other people. So if I see somebody in a tournament and they're my student, I'm going to coach them. And really, if they're my friend and they don't have a coach, I'm going to coach them. So I'm not caught up in like, I don't. If you train at multiple places, I don't know who you're representing. Well, you're representing whoever you have a patch on, and really, at the end of the day, on a jiu-jitsu match, I wish you the best. It's not like you're fighting to the death. We're fighting for a medal. There's a lot of work involved in it, but it's not a life or death fight. So if somebody came in here and they learned a technique from me, and then they showed up at a tournament and they used it against one of my students because they ended up going against each other, it's like jiu-jitsu. Like, there's no secrets in jiu-jitsu. So I'm good with that. Like, I don't lose any sleep thinking, man, I'm letting these guys from these other teams in town train with us from time to time. What if they go against one of my students in a tournament and my student loses because of something they learned from us? Well, my student will learn and they'll get better. And, I'll learn from it. I'll get better. But I'll continue to open my door to folks that want to train. If you want to train, come in. Because it's not just good for that student from another school to train with us. It's good for us and our students at our school. That's why, like, anytime military guys or even non-military people are visiting San Antonio for a few days or weeks, and they're like, hey, is it okay if we come train with you? Absolutely. Come in and train with us. Matter of fact, we have a black belt from Philadelphia, Professor Kyle, who owns a school in Philadelphia, and he's in town for a month, and he's training here. And it's a huge win for us because we're getting, his attack is very different than some of our attacks, and we're benefiting from having this super talented black belt train with us, every chance he gets that he's not busy with his job in the Army, in the school he's in, he's coming in and he's training with us. Or he might be in the Air Force. I get my services mixed up sometimes. I was in the Navy. Everybody else, they either were in the Navy or they weren't in the Navy. Inside joke. My wife was in the Army for 9 years, and the services, we jab each other all the time. So yeah, like, we cross-train with whoever you want to train with. I was at a school one time. We was in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. It was a crazy scenario because there was a guy. He was a purple belt. He was like a black belt in karate or something, but he was a purple belt. He was running a jiu-jitsu school, and it was not, at the time, it was the only jiu-jitsu school in town. So my wife Sway and we was there, and so we had signed a contract to train at his school because we thought, man, we need some place to train. It's not the best scenario, but this is all that the town had. And we was training there for a couple months, and then a good friend of mine retired from the Navy and opened up his own jiu-jitsu school in the same town, which is great. So we're in a military town. Now there's 2 schools. And my friend Chico was like, hey, Saad, like, you're always welcome to come train with me. Come train with me in addition to, training where you're at. I'd signed a contract to train at the other school, and, I was paying them a monthly fee. And I was cool with that, and I was going to go training with my friend Chico. And then I go into the school one day, and my friend Chico Santiago, he owns Combat Club in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He's the guy that painted Carlos and Elio for me the pictures behind me. Like back in 2010, he gave it to me for my birthday. And I was like, bro, one day I'm going to open up my own school and I'm going to put your paintings on my wall. And that's why you see Carlos and Elio Gracie, who were painted by Chico Santiago, one of my best friends in life, and hanging on my wall. So I was training with Chico at Combat Club, and I was also training with this other guy. I was like, well, because I signed a contract with the other guy, and I'm like, I give you my word, so of course I'm going to keep paying you. But I'm going to train with my friend a lot too. And then the guy calls me in the office. He's like, hey, Saad, can I talk to you? I'm like, sure, man. What's up? He's like, it's been brought to my attention you're also training at another school in town. I'm like, yeah, I train at your school, and I also train at my buddy's school too. He's like, well, that's a problem because I don't want you taking, my secret jiu-jitsu techniques over to the other school. I'm like, bro, you're a purple belt. What secret jiu-jitsu techniques you got? Really? I'm like, I'm not taking your secret techniques over to the other school. I was just a blue belt at the time. I'm not taking your secret techniques over to the other school. And he's like, it's a problem for you training there. And I'm like, I don't understand how that's a problem. And he said, well, for example, Washington Redskin football players don't train with Dallas Cowboy football players because they're in competition. I said, I see your analogy, but it doesn't apply to our situation. I said, because the owner of the Washington Redskins, Daniel Snyder, is paying the football players of the Washington Redskins to do what he tells them to do. And the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, is paying the players on the Dallas Cowboys to do what he says. He gets to set the rules. It's like that old B.B. King song, I'm paying the cost to be the boss. One of my favorite lines. I use it on my kids all the time. It's like, well, Dad, why we gotta do this? Because I'm paying the cost to be the boss. B.B. King. I digress. So, I said, in our case, you're not paying me to be your student to train. I'm paying you. So when I pay you, you don't get to tell me where I get to train. Because one, I'm paying you, and two, I'm a grown man. I do exactly what I want to do. The U.S. Navy, because I was in the U.S. Navy at the time, they get to tell me what I get to do, what I don't get to do, because they're paying the boss. They're paying the cost to be my boss. You running your jiu-jitsu school, you are not paying the cost to be the boss. You're receiving payment. So all that, we just worked it out, and I just paid him to buy out the contract because apparently it was a problem with me training there and also training at Combat Club. So I ended up paying that dude like $1,300 not to train at his school anymore, which is why at our school, Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu, we do not do contracts because of that bad experience. Because I was like, there's no way somebody could give me $1,300 not to train with them no more. It's like, your training is so bad. Here's $1,300 because I just want out of this contract and I don't want to train with you no more. It was a crazy deal. But the dude took the money. Good for him. And his jiu-jitsu is probably still trash. I digress. So, train with whoever you want to train. Enjoy your experience. Different teams have different ways of attacking, but it's all jiu-jitsu, and you should enjoy it. And I go back to the thing, like here in town, or any town you're in, like me, when I was in the Navy, and some of the other service members, we went over and fought a common enemy in Iraq, or we went over and fought a common enemy in Afghanistan, or wherever the U.S. military sends us. And now you're going to come to your jiu-jitsu school, and you're going to have somebody tell you, hey, you and that army guy, you can go fight an enemy over in Iraq together, but you can't train this combat art together because we're team A and they're team B, and we're rivals that might meet in some competition. It's like, dude, that's madness. It's nonsense. And so I've said all that. My wife is going to be like, Saad, you didn't have to make this a 20-minute video. It only needed to be a 2-minute video, which is why, in case she watches it, at the beginning of the video I said, if you want the quick down and dirty, I believe in cross-training with other people in the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu community, even other schools and other associations in the same town that your school is in. You know, because it's your money, and it's your art, it's your jiu-jitsu journey, and why not enjoy it to the max and train with your friends and your family members. Like, enjoy this journey. So I enjoy this journey, and I train with other people, and so I encourage you to enjoy your journey and train with other people. And if the school you're at is telling you you can't train with other people, maybe you should reevaluate your relationship, because that's it. I'm a grown man, and I'm paying you for a service, and you don't get to tell me how I'm going to conduct myself, you know, and who I'm going to train with. But that's me. So that's my philosophy. That's the answer to this week's question. If you got a question for next week, like I said, fire it down below in the comment section, or when you see me at school, just say, Saad, I got this jiu-jitsu question. And I think next week's question, somebody asked me about why jiu-jitsu people say OS, O-S-S. And I'll hit that next week. Or whatever other questions to come up. All right, thanks a lot. Glad y'all endured the winter storm and survived, and looking forward to warmer weather and training jiu-jitsu some more. So thanks again. See y'all next week. Ciao.